Hello and welcome to our daily sketching routine. It is Tuesday, March 11th, 2025, and today's topic is going to be about drawing the eye from a profile view. And yeah, I'll work on this part. But before we begin, welcome back if you're returning, and welcome if you are new to my channel. I sketch and post every day, and I use timers to stay focused and to build a habit. So I'll start a 10-minute timer, and I'll link to yesterday's video, which I sketched this in right here, and I'll talk about that. And I'm going to focus on the eye because to really detail something, it does take time. So with that said, I'm going to zoom in and just focus on kind of this area and maybe a little bit around it. But I find that in these videos, since I do them real time, like on these other areas here, I have to sort of go through it pretty quickly, which isn't a bad thing. So you'll see that the drawing is basically there, construction and everything. And that's what I went over yesterday. And also in the figure drawing playlist, if you really want to know more details about drawing profiles and like the eye and stuff like that, I'll talk about it some. But I think today's video will be a little bit more about the, like, just specifically like this drawing and also an approach to doing it. And just as an aside, I found this grip. I had like a pencil holder grip thing right here, and I put it on top of this felt tip pen. It's a Papermate felt tip pen that I use most of the time in these videos, and it works pretty well. Yeah, with that said, let's go ahead and work on this. So the approach was to just sketch this out based upon knowledge of construction and like a methodology. So this video isn't so much about like the anatomy of the eye. I've gone over that in other videos if you want to check them out. It's really about like the specific character. So this page is a character design. So yesterday I talked about kind of how I got this sort of basically like the anatomy of the eye. And there's a lot of variations. It's based upon the proportions, kind of like basic proportions, but even within that, there's millimeters of difference that makes it look like a certain character or a certain person. Part of it is the lighting. So with this kind of sketch, the lighting can be different. I'm just going to go with sort of a simple lighting just based upon like reference pictures that I got. So, but there's still the step of like sketching. So for example, a lot of this will just be sort of a demonstration, and I'll kind of just talk. But a lot of it is really meant to be more of a demonstration of what I'm talking about. So I'm just going to draw in some stuff and not worry too much about shading because it can be different. So this one is really more about, like, this part for me is about the character. So for example, I'm getting used to this grip. I just found this, and so I wanted to use it, and I like it. I've got one of those bumps, calluses. That's how you know you draw a whole lot. Kind of like when you're playing guitar, learning guitar, and then you get the calluses on your fingertips. So yeah, part of this, as far as like the sketch, I'm not worried too much about the rendering. I'm still getting like the design of it, and that's like the sketch part. And I'm going off of the like the character design that's on this page, which is nice to be able to have the character like all on one page. That's the benefit of like a style guide. Now some of the sort of loose construction lines, I like to do it that way because sometimes they give me ideas for the character, the design of the character. If I can use it, then I will. So I'm just kind of getting this area around here because it's kind of important before you start to like shade and all that, like do the light and shadow. You kind of want to get the shapes. But hopefully it'll be helpful to sort of see how the construction helps with the character design. And obviously you'll get a lot of this just from experience. It's always a little bit new to me. Like every drawing is always a little bit new and a learning experience. Alright, that's pretty good. Part of that was just like to warm up. But yeah, I'm going to focus on just the eyes because in these videos, I think it's important to be able to sort of do this, but like the next stage, which is sort of now I'm going to go into sort of like the light and dark, or like the shading process. It's its own thing, and then like detailing, it's its own thing. I might use different pens, so I'll go over that. The lighting is important, so you might want to figure out like, how do you want to do the lighting? Because that affects the line weight. As far as like the darkest areas, like the eyelashes tend to be dark, and you'll see that I kind of just leave open areas that are reflected because the lights have a lot of reflection and they are spherical in nature. So when I'm working on this off camera, this is basically my approach, is to take time. I always talk about how at this stage, this is where you take time, especially if you're just drawing with ink, like straight to ink, which one, I prefer it makes me have to think about it more, which, I mean, you don't have to. Sometimes I'll just like scribble and like doodle stuff, but that does have like a certain look to it. Like if you do it this way, it looks more finished. So there's that. And then the other thing is, like, I just like the look of it because it looks more finished. Whereas if I did it in pencil, to me it'll always kind of look like a pencil sketch or drawing, which isn't a bad thing, but that's just like the look of it. So this is kind of running out, and what I've learned with these pens is, one, I like to use them until they run out, but then if it starts to get kind of a gray kind of look, I'll just use that. So I also talk about kind of build it up gradually, and this is kind of what I mean. Sort of be patient, and if you do have a reference, just kind of, so I like to draw stuff like this because if I just look off of something, it's going to look too much like it, and that's not my intention. Like, that's not what I'm wanting to do. It's sort of like when you see actors and how they could have like kind of the same look, or maybe even play like the same character, but like they don't look exactly the same. And that's kind of what I'm going for, where it's a character, so there's like a look to it. However, it could be played by different people, different actors. So one thing is, I could leave it kind of open like this, and that's not too bad. Like if I'm going to color it, I might not want to shade it. That's actually not a bad idea. Now that I think about it, I might want to do this in color. Now with that said though, so there's some like kind of areas I want to shade, and I could use the same pen, but I feel like it can be a little heavy-handed. So I'm going to use like a finer point. So we'll see. Some of it, like, I could shade like this because of the lighting, but I don't have to. Now, once I kind of add some shadows, we could imply that the lighting, there's some lighting also on this side, if we don't want to shade like the face. So I'm going to add some shading right here. So that's kind of what I mean, like build it up gradually, because once you put down like the lines, the pen lines, you basically have to, like if I put some shading right here, like maybe even like along the nose, for example, that could look okay, or it might mean that I'd have to shade other areas. But there's going to be some areas that's always going to get kind of a little bit of shadow just because of the forms. And also there's like the stylistic thing. So notice that it does make a difference when you go in with the finer point. Like between, like you can double the line there, or you could have like done a heavier line, but it does have like a look to it. But that's what I mean by gradual, like just kind of build it up gradually. That's pretty much what today's video was about. And in some ways, if you want it to be more detailed looking, just use like a fine point. And again, it depends on the style too. So for example, on this one, I might just make the lines more outlined and like just play around with like the line weight. And yeah, I mean, each picture is kind of its own thing, so there's just kind of how I'm approaching this one. Now I said eyes, but I'm working on the rest of it. Kind of go like that. It's different approaches. But yeah, I think for the rest of the video, we have a couple of minutes left. I'll just kind of sketch. I want to thank you for joining me for a daily sketching routine, and if you like these videos, please support the channel. I appreciate it, and until next time, keep on sketching.